Digital phantom mystery. Due to the countless number of eerie websites scattered across the internet, it's always fascinating when one manages to stand out from the rest. Back in the early days of the web, stumbling upon a creepy or unexplained site felt far more unsettling. There was no roadmap for online mysteries, no preconceived idea of what to expect. Today, internet users actively seek out such oddities purely for entertainment. But that doesn't mean older web mysteries have lost their grip on our imagination. One such enigma is a forgotten site shrouded in speculation, rumored connections, and unanswered questions, Mortis.com. Originally created in 1997, this now defunct website became a digital phantom, notorious for its impenetrable login screen that left hackers and researchers baffled. Whispers of links to a dentist office, a lawyer, and even a high-end security firm only deepened the intrigue. Massive encrypted files, one reportedly 39 gigabytes, sparked theories about hidden data or sinister secrets. Attempts to trace the domain's owner, a man known only as Thomas Ling, led nowhere. Most believed the name was an alias, further fueling the mystery. To complicate matters, connected domains displayed bizarre content, like a single white chess piece on a blank page, and were associated with vacant warehouses or deceased individuals. Though Ling once claimed the site merely stored his wedding photos, this explanation only drove internet sleuths to dig deeper, convinced something darker lurked behind the login screen. With archived threads vanishing and all official references wiped from the web, Mortis.com remains a chilling echo of the early internet, a puzzle that may never be solved. Ling's digital enigma. Recently, however, our OP began posting several updates as more people chimed in with theories and personal experiences. The first update was simple, stating that he would continue to revise the post as new information came in. The second linked to another surviving 4chan technology thread, which we'll revisit later. The third update introduced a persistent rumor. Some claim that federal authorities became involved with Mortis.com and ultimately shut it down for reasons unknown. Others argued that it was Thomas Ling himself who pulled the plug, possibly overwhelmed by the growing attention and scrutiny. The truth remains murky, and both versions leave us with more questions than answers. If the feds really were involved, why target this site? And if Ling shut it down, what was he hiding? Update 4 revealed a list of equally unsettling domains allegedly tied to Ling, websites like Cthulhu.net, which displayed nothing but a white chess piece with the cryptic phrase, "dead but dreaming," as well as KarenLing.com, JoshuaLing.org, Lingsborough.com, EternalNight.com, and even DentalFillings.net. No one ever determined the real purpose behind these strange sites, and many are now defunct. Additional first-hand testimonies from old 4chan users painted Mortis.com as an obsession. One user recalled browsing the paranormal board when the name Mortis came up. Upon visiting, they found nothing but a black screen with the word Mortis in plain white text. Clicking the word revealed a stubborn login box, and repeated attempts to break in, using generic usernames, passwords, or brute force, failed miserably. It was then discovered that the site held terabytes of encrypted data, an absurdly large amount that spurred darker theories about what could be hidden inside. Some users even warned each other to stop digging for safety reasons, but curiosity prevailed. Eventually, word spread that the site and all of Ling's connected domains had vanished. Some insisting the FBI had stepped in, others saying Ling personally shut everything down. Another user, going by mental illness, claimed to have spoken to Ling directly in an IRC chat, where he casually dismissed the mystery by saying the site only contained family photos. To prove his identity, he temporarily altered the homepage with a short text message before taking it down again. But this explanation didn't ease suspicions. Instead, it deepened them. A separate site featuring a knight chess piece login was also linked to Ling, but like Mortis.com, it never yielded its secrets. With conflicting testimonies, dead archive threads, and vanishing evidence, the challenge of separating fact from fiction remains immense. What we do know for certain is that Thomas Ling, whoever he truly is, left behind a trail of eerie digital footprints. Using public domain registration records, a reverse DNS lookup shows he once owned 25 domains, with Mortis.com being the very first. The deeper we dig, the clearer it becomes. Ling has gone to great lengths to erase his digital past. Hidden web secrets. From existence, this truly shows whatever is on this website is definitely trying to be hidden and left in the past. We know this because someone actually contacted the Wayback Machine to remove sites from their archive. I just want to point out that I've looked through the Wayback Machine quite a bit, and I've only seen this happen a handful of times. Since we can't even view what the original website looked like, we're going to have to dig into the other websites by Thomas Ling to get a clearer picture of what was going on. However, we first need to track down websites that can be directly linked to Thomas Ling, the person who created Mortis.com. Here's the challenge. When you perform a reverse domain search, anyone with the name Thomas Ling is thrown into the results, which means we have to narrow it down. To better understand this, imagine your name is something very common, like John Smith. You'd end up lumped in with dozens of unrelated John Smiths who registered websites. The key sites I found useful in this case are those tied to a single domain registrar called Pair Networks Incorporated, which appears to have handled several sites created around the same period as Mortis.com. Here's the list I believe is relevant: Cthulhu.net, dentalfillings.com, eternalnight.com, exercito.com, jeffreyling.org, joshualing.org, karenling.com, lingsborough.com, mortis.com, and thomaslingdds.com. Since we already know Mortis.com was just a login page and we can't view its past history, let's move to the next website in the timeline. A year after Mortis.com's creation in 1998, exercito.com was launched. This site, also removed from the Wayback Machine, is oddly still online today. Visiting it reveals a simple directory listing files like quilts.html, quilts files, robots.txt, and a folder labeled sale. The only interesting item here is quilts.html, which redirects to what appears to be a personal art portfolio showcasing handmade quilts. Back in 1998, websites like this were fairly common. People used them to share crafts and hobbies because there were no platforms like Pinterest or Instagram. I suspect this site belongs to Karen Ling, and here's why. The homepage mentions 2 quilts made for Joshua and Jeffrey on their first birthdays. Looking back at our list of domains, joshualing.org, jeffreyling.org, karenling.com, the connection becomes clear. Another detail is the small DFI logo in the top right corner of the page, which we'll discuss soon. Next, we have dentalfillings.com, which is archived on the Wayback Machine. The earliest snapshot shows a site representing a company called Dental Fillings Inc. with 2 office locations. These offices are no longer associated with the business and don't provide much help. However, by checking the FAQ section, we again find the DFI logo matching the quilt website. This confirms that these sites are interconnected. Contrary to popular online rumors claiming the company was fake, public records prove that Dental Fillings Inc. was a real business. It was incorporated in California under the name Thomas Ling. That said, the business entity was suspended by the Franchise Tax Board, likely around 2012, as these niche employment services became obsolete due to modern job search websites. Interestingly, while the site claims the company was founded in 1968, official records show it was actually created in 1998, which likely fueled suspicions. Before moving on to the truly bizarre websites, one final normal domain stands out: thomaslingdds.com. This site belongs to a practicing dentist in San Francisco and is still active today. It's worth noting that this domain was registered around the same time Dental Fillings Inc. was shutting down. Reviews on Yelp suggest this is a well-respected dentist, so please do not bother or harass this man with questions about Mortis. This mystery has circulated for years, and if he wanted to address it publicly, he would have done so already. Cryptic Web Origins. Now let's move on to the more cryptic websites on our list. Cthulhu.net, another domain believed to be owned by Thomas Ling, remains one of the more puzzling pieces of this mystery. Not much is known about this website, likely because there was almost nothing to it. In its earliest Wayback Machine captures, the homepage simply read, Cthulhu.net will awaken soon. Send us your email address and we'll keep you posted at Cthulhu@Cthulhu.net. A is for the rumored chess piece mentioned by our Opie. I believe that's a misremembered detail. The Wayback Machine shows no interactive elements on this site, but if we look at joshualing.org, its oldest capture from July 2011 reveals a black chess piece, a motif that appears on several other Ling domains, including lingsborough.com. My best guess is that these names and placeholders were simply a way for Ling to reserve domains for his children's names or future projects. For example, KarenLing.com originally displayed the message, future home of KarenLing.com, before being replaced by the same chess piece. The name Cthulhu.net likely had less to do with dark conspiracies and more with the early practice of domain flipping, buying valuable names to resell later at a profit. Back in the early 2000s, this was a booming side hustle, and the word Cthulhu would have been considered a high-value keyword. Google Trends data shows domain flipping interest peaked in January 2004, which is interesting because Cthulhu.net was registered just 2 months later, in March 2004. As for any supposed ties to security firms or shady businesses, my research suggests that these rumors stemmed from confusion with other people named Thomas Ling. I found no concrete evidence linking this particular Ling to such entities. Unfortunately, almost all the original 4chan and archive threads covering these sites are now gone, making fact-checking difficult. Still, the evidence we do have paints a much clearer and less sinister picture. Some of the more technical evidence came from analyzing the files linked to Mortis.com. Early threads, now deleted, mentioned that the website contained an embedded media player in its code. This suggests the site might have been used for streaming videos or music. But the bigger clue comes from Usenet searches, specifically through a tool called bin search. By tracing email addresses linked to Mortis.com, users discovered massive file uploads, some as large as 25 gigabytes or more, with strange jumbled names. One 4chan user posted in September 2011 about a file titled Crazy 3D BD 25 Part 2, likely a ripped Blu-ray movie. A quick search for Drive Crazy 3D brings up the Nicolas Cage movie Drive Angry 2011, which was released on Blu-ray that May. This strongly suggests Mortis.com functioned as a private file-sharing hub, perhaps for friends or family, where DVDs were ripped, cataloged, and shared long before mainstream streaming platforms existed. This theory makes sense. BitTorrent didn't even appear until 2001, and Mortis.com was created in 1997. With its massive file sizes, Mortis might have been an early private family Netflix, storing movies for easy access. But if Thomas Ling and his circle were sharing copyrighted media on such a large scale, this could explain the persistent rumors about FBI involvement and why the site eventually vanished. Remember those old FBI warnings that played before VHS and DVDs? It's not unreasonable to think someone noticed. Thomas Ling's timeline is interesting too. He graduated dental school in 1992. Mortis.com appeared in 1997. DentalFillings.com was founded in 1998. Perhaps this was all just part of a larger effort to provide for his family, combining his day job with a side project for entertainment. The name Mortis, Latin for death, feels odd for a family project, but maybe in the early web days, he didn't expect random users to stumble onto it. In conclusion, I believe this is the most logical explanation anyone has put forward for Mortis.com. It wasn't a sinister darknet conspiracy, but rather a misunderstood relic of early internet experimentation. This small website, through years of speculation, transformed into a digital urban legend, passed along like a prolonged game of telephone. Still, it has been fascinating to dissect the rumors and piece together a plausible truth. I might not have every detail correct, but for now, I think we can finally put this mystery to rest.